Welcome to Running on Ice, the coolest community in freight. I'm your host, Mary O'Connell, bringing you the latest tech updates, warehouse news, and everything happening in the cold chain world. Not only is there the coolest show in freight, but there's also Running on Ice, a newsletter that could not be colder. You can subscribe to that on freightwaves.com/runningonIce. Today, we welcome back the one and only Juan Mizell, founder and CEO at Grip. Welcome back to the show, Juan.
Thank you, Mary. Good to see you.
I am excited about today because I've been following you guys for a while, and you guys took a jump in an interesting direction, and that is to kind of start these temperature-controlled kind of fulfillment centers. And I got to say, at first, I was like, what? Then I was like, oh, I guess it kind of makes sense. So kind of jumping right in, what inspired you guys to kind of jump into this fulfillment center space? What made you guys do it?
Yeah, totally. So some history on it, and you've been following us for some time, is we started purely as the technology layer that decides how to ship boxes. So basically looking at millions of data points through the network and understanding what's the absolute best way to get a box of something perishable, which means refrigerated or frozen, from point A to point B. And, after we did that for some time and we built this incredible platform that was really missing in the market, like our customers were getting great value from it, but at the end of the day, if you do all that right, but you're still having trouble like actually fulfilling and shipping the boxes on the ground, then there's always going to be a disconnect. And the industry for direct-to-consumer perishables is so new that like it's very fragmented, because that's just how the industry has evolved. So there was just this opportunity to be, the player in the space that had all the points connected through the ecosystem, so that we would all run it through the same platform, and then you just have every single data point and every single movement of the products and goods within the same platform ecosystem. So that has been a really, really big value unlock for our customers, where they just had to deal with, multiple companies, multiple softwares, multiple processes, multiple systems, and everything was just fragmented. So with this, it was a very clear path to us. It was actually our same customers who pushed us into it, very quickly, basically knowing that we had done it before, in the butcher box states and some other companies that we were advising as well. And it was just a very clear path for us. And it's been great to see the evolution of it from a pure software. And we were also getting very involved in the operation, because we're very hands-on with our customers to understand what they need and what else we can help with. But now, we're definitely all in it, and we've seen a pretty fun evolution of the customer journey that, starts with the technology, and then we just end up helping them through the full end-to-end of the supply chain.
I feel like that has to be a pretty good feeling when your customers are like, hey, are you doing this? And you're like, oh, I guess not, but I guess we could. And they're like, yeah, you should do this, and you should kind of take this over. I feel like that's got to be a pretty good pat on the back, that they see your value and your worth and recognize and say, you should do more, because we would love to give you more business.
Totally. I mean, we were just making fun the other day that a lot of people call us a CaaS, so company as a service, and not a SaaS or a 3PL, just because we do so much for them. We're very deep into the full, data infrastructure and sending notifications to their customers, and, organizing the full backend of how they work. And now also with our boots on the ground and actually shipping the boxes, it's basically like, we actually just take all the heavy work off their plates for logistics and operations, and they focus on building the products, on innovating with new stuff that they can sell to their customers, with the front end of their websites, with actually building brand equity, and we're taking care of all the back end. And it's just incredible to see also how lean our customers can be by offloading all these in the back end to us, where before this they just needed all these people to manage all these different partners and vendors. But if you just have everything flowing through one API connection into the one system, and then you just get all the bills very organized from that one provider, and you just know it's been taken care of, you can just focus your efforts on something more value add.
Oh, absolutely. That's something that has come up a lot lately, kind of in talking about different areas within a company or an organization. And that is, remembering that, if I'm a shipper, or if I'm someone that has one of these, has a box that I would like to offer to people, my specialty is that product that I sell, and it is coming up with new products and innovations. It's not how do I get something from Seattle to Chicago and keep it at 30 degrees? So that is something that I think more and more people are realizing that, okay, well, this is just because I have this, I want to cover coast to coast network. I don't have to suddenly have the entire logistics department to go from Seattle to Miami. Like I can lean on partners, and I can hand it over to people who are the experts who can do it. So that way I can focus more on my business and the products that I want to sell. And I do love that people are kind of recognizing that and saying, okay, well, I'm going to focus on what I'm really good at, and I'm going to hand this off to people who are really good at what they do.
Totally. And we've seen it, like companies that decide to go that route and just be more lean and like go more towards a partnership model. We just seen that it just unlocks growth for them, because reality is that resources are limited, and also more nowadays that a lot of companies are not getting the funding that they used to get. Is, hey, let me just optimize this by not giving resources or a lot of attention to these that I can just plug into someone that I know that the only thing that they're doing and the only mission that they have is making that right. So like, of course, that company is going to do it much more efficiently at a better cost and, with better data traceability, that because it's the only thing that they do versus just trying to rebuild the whole model. When we compare it also to like trying to rebuild a Stripe, for example, the payment processing system. Like if you're a direct to consumer company and that's where you're focusing your resources on, I definitely think that you have some things to rethink. And I don't think that supply chain is necessarily there yet, that, it's just a one connection. You don't have to worry about anything, but with the things that we put in place and, some other players out there for sure, we're more so getting there. And that democratizes the whole, access to it as well, where if you're a small company that has a great product, now you don't have to spend your resources optimizing for the supply chain. You can just plug into someone that can do all that for you, and you can just focus on getting more people to know your product.
So one of the things that you guys have done is you have a couple of these new fulfillment centers. Do you kind of see, do you guys see, having to add more kind of and grow that footprint as more and more companies kind of, use your services and would like you guys to be their fulfillment experts?
We've had to, for sure. We already have to move from one facility to the other because we needed much more space. And, that happened pretty fast a couple months after we launched, which was great to see. But then also, we should have probably planned better for that. It's been, that whole side has been great. We actually cover the entire country right now in 2 days, under 2 days in shipping. So we get to about 50 to 60% in 1 day, so 24 hours, and the rest in 48 hours. So we don't necessarily need more facilities to get to places of the country. We could use more facilities to get there faster, but at some point, you start getting diminishing returns by the more facilities that you open. And brands, there's also carrying inventory costs for them. So they don't necessarily want to be, in 4 or 5 facilities all the time.
That kind of does make sense, because I think a lot of the people that you guys work with are those small to medium sized shippers where, it's easy to kind of work out of maybe a freezer or your house or like a very small facility. But the jump from a smaller facility to, like a $3 million bajillion dollar warehouse is kind of a large jump that not everyone can swing. So I do that is a very important thing that happens is, those small to medium sized shippers, they don't have millions of dollars to have inventory all over the country. So they really kind of have to maximize it where it is. Have you guys run into problems? I guess you kind of alluded to it a little bit, where you opened a facility and you had to hurry up and open another one because you had so much demand. Have you guys run into any problems like, finding these temperature controlled spaces for people?
We have, initially, and mostly when we were looking at this like a year plus ago, where, in the Northeast specifically, capacity was very tight. Some other markets as well. I think our value proposition in the space is very strong from a unit economic standpoint, because if you take a facility that's doing pallet in, pallet out, and then you start doing a lot more value added activities like, picking by the unit and then shipping boxes where you're getting like multiple dollars per box, then the business model makes a lot more sense to grab space that might not make sense if you're just doing pallet in, pallet out. So just for that reason, it's been a little bit easier for us. And then Also, what we do with this is everything gets optimized before the products get to the ground. So once like an order gets to the ground, there's zero decisions that are made. At that point, we're just following instructions. So that basically like optimizes the full, flow of product and how we are using the square feet of these warehouses. So that has made it a little bit easier for us, but not to say that, the market is definitely challenging. I think that's probably going to alleviate within the next couple of years as you see millions of, square feet being built specifically on the frozen and the refrigerated side and mostly on the hot markets as, everything else with supply and demand. But yeah, it's definitely been challenging for sure for over the last year or so.
Oh yeah, that's why I feel like there's kind of like a whole like, there's all this like warehouse space is kind of opening on the dry van side and it's not as tight as it was, but cold chain, I feel like you could probably build like 700 more 300,000 square foot warehouses and people will be like, that's still not enough.
I mean, you see it, and it's also like if you look at the average age of a frozen facility, it's like somewhere from like 40 to 60 years. If you look at the average age. So, those are facilities that are not as tall, so you can't fit that many, pallets in them. The refrigeration units are not as efficient, so you're not getting, you're having to pay a lot to keep up with them and maintain it. So you see a lot of innovation in that space as well. So, there's a lot of things where like, hey, even if the market is tight, if you open a facility that's much more efficient, that's going to allow you to keep, costs low, and that's going to allow you to service your customer better as well. So there's probably still space for, new facilities, even if the market is not necessarily asking for more.
Oh, absolutely. I think we could all just the fact that some of the like some warehouses are still like 60 years old does still might blow my mind a little because the warehousing 60 years ago versus today is quite a lot different. So I can only imagine. I just kind of want to see some of the retrofits that exist in that because I feel like it has to be like I guess that does work.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen some of those, and then they do a great job retrofitting. But at the end of the day, it's like the core of the facility that you can't necessarily change, or to change refrigeration units, it's also sometimes millions of dollars. So, there's a lot of money that have gone into these facilities, and not all of them have paid all the money back. So that means that you just like basically need to keep working on it until you get the ROI back.
Exactly. One of the things that we've seen kind of, well, I guess we're coming out of it now that we're coming into the spring, but over the winter time, there at one point in time, there was a snowstorm that took out literally like half the country and most of the Midwest with it. So I guess how does that work with because you guys do that fulfillment services. So kind of, how do you kind of bring the unpredictability of, winter storms and mudslides out west and wildfires and hurricanes? How do you bring all of those unpredictable moments into a little bit more predictability so that way your customers and your clients can kind of have that like sigh of relief of like, okay, there is a winter storm, but I'm still going to get product out and I'm still not going to lose millions of dollars because there's snow across half the country.
Yeah. So the way that we do this is every time one of our customers is going to ship an order, we look at what's the specific time frame of when that order is going to be on the road. And then we look at the path of the order, and we look at what type of major weather events could be impacting that route, which means, origin, path, and destination. And through that, we assess what are the different events that have the biggest impact in the supply chain and delays. And then with that, we provide recommendations of what to do with it. At the end of the day, it's very challenging, right? Because these things are moving and changing very fast, and every single customer has different, risk aversion strategies. Some of them could be like, hey, just ship it. I need to try to get the product there anyway. Or someone else could be, hey, I don't really want to risk the product, so they just hold it and ship it in a couple of days. But what we do is we provide our customers with all this information so that we can together with them make the decisions of what. So we say, hey, this order is going to be, impacted by a blizzard going through Colorado in the next 3 days, and it's bringing 12 inches of snow. And then the day after that, it's going to be sunny, and we're shipping this order from Texas, so we can get it north when the blizzard is hitting, and then the day after, when the order is going to be there for the final mile, then everything is going to be cleared up because they have pretty good, road, like snow cleaning systems, for example, in the state of Colorado. So those are all like decisions that we make with our customers, and that's how we are proactive about it, so that we just don't have orders sitting in a facility and just spoiling, or customers that are waiting for food or something very important to get delivered to the house that they just never hear anything about. So that's basically the approach that we take. And what it does is it takes what it would have been a pretty bad experience for a customer and it flips it on the head, and it makes it a very, very good one. Because if you're waiting for something and this company just reaches out to you saying that there's a major weather event in this route and they explain like what it's, that's causing the product, like me personally, I mean, also because I'm in logistics, but like I would fall in love with that brand because I know that they have their stuff together when it comes to, the data, where am I located, the product that I ordered, like the time frame of when the order is going to be on the road. I just like know that, they have their shit together.
Yeah, absolutely. I would, even if that was me, I would like, if I get anything that's like, hey, FYI, we're going to ship this, but we're going to just kind of scooch it a little bit. So that way, like nothing gets stuck in a storm or, all of this thing, like any sign of forethought that a shipper or someone I'm buying from has, I will take a delay all day long. I will say, oh, okay, do you need to delay it a week? That's fine. Just because they had that foresight to go, hey, this is gonna be a problem. But instead of just saying it's stuck in a blizzard somewhere, we don't know where, we actually have worked ahead to be like, no, it's okay. Don't worry, everything's fine.
Like, of course, from a refund and a reship perspective, you save a bunch of money, but then also from a lifetime value of the customer, that's where I think it has the most impact. Because at this point, if you're a direct-to-consumer brand, you have already paid for that customer acquisition cost, which, even more so nowadays, it's pretty high. So that way, customers or, direct-to-consumer companies are waiting for a few shipments based on revenue from each customer to be able to recoup that money and start making money on that customer. So if shipment 1 or 2, you just mess up the delivery experience, then the biggest hit to the bottom line is the lifetime value of that customer.
Yeah, 100%. Just like with any other business, if I know that you do a good job and you make a mistake after I know that you already do a good job, I'm much more likely to forgive versus if it's the first time and there's a mistake. That's not gonna settle well. All right, so because you guys have developed this plan, so kind of we can you can deal with the unpredictable. Do you foresee kind of because it's not really a secret that climate change is happening. We're having a lot more unusual weather events. We're having blizzards in North Texas and other parts of Texas that aren't used to seeing snow, and we're having ice everywhere. Do you kind of foresee more of these impacts affecting the supply chain as kind of we move out through the rest of the year and into the years to come?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we are already seeing it, as you said. Texas getting snow, right? That like completely disrupts the supply chain because you just don't have trucks that are capable of cleaning the roads and just making it available for people. And we saw it, for example, last year where we had 1 week in Los Angeles where, like, that 1 week temperatures went up by 20 to 30 degrees, and there was a massive heat wave that hit for 3 to 4 days. If you basically have a static rule of, hey, this is how I ship my orders to California, like let's say through the summer, then you're just going to have a bunch of damaged products, like specifically to those 3 days, because you're not really being dynamic or proactive about it. So we see a lot more of those events happening where it's basically just for a few days, randomly on a place of the country where if you're not really on top of it from a data or if you can't adjust what you're doing from a systems perspective, then you're definitely going to be taking a big hit when it comes to inventory and customer satisfaction.
Oh, absolutely. I couldn't even imagine. For example, last year, I've lived in the Midwest my entire life. I learned about corn sweat last year, and that is when it is so hot that the corn starts putting off its own humidity, which then is increasing the humidity and making it hotter, creating more humidity and stuff from the corn. And that was we were hitting record highs of heat indexes and everything. And so if I was trying to ship something through pretty much anywhere from Nebraska all the way to Ohio, I was just getting stuck in this just giant tunnel of heat. I was in my very own basically easy bake oven. So I think that, having stuff like that in place where, okay, well, we see that this is not atypical for this time of the year, or, it's hot, but it's very, very hot. Especially in the temperature controlled space, I feel like that has to at least help, because if okay, it's a 2-day point, but a day and a half of this, I have to go through this easy bake oven, that has to help at least in the beginning of saying, okay, well, then we maybe need to add a little bit more, insulation or coolant to whatever I'm shipping. So that way the product inside can actually stay safe and hopefully make it in one piece.
I mean, we've seen that, for example, with a blizzard, when there's a blizzard, above a certain amount of, inches of snow, the on-time delivery of a box drops from the high 90s to the high 60s. So there's almost like a 40, point, or like almost like a 30 something point drop in on-time delivery for that shipment. So, if you know that, then like, why are you even shipping the box? But to be able to do that, you need the systems in place to be able to be proactive about that. But the numbers are just, incredible when it comes to performance of logistics tied to major weather events.
I absolutely love that you guys have like been able to capture that data and kind of, because we all know that whenever there's a blizzard or a weather event, that like naturally service falls off and it's not as great. But the fact that you guys actually have the data and like kind of the knowledge behind it of like, yeah, we could send it now and have a 20% chance of it getting there, or we could just wait a day and everything will be fine, or it has a higher chance of getting there. But I love the fact that you guys have that data behind it, because that is something that I think a lot of shippers forget about, or they don't necessarily think that there is, they don't necessarily kind of put stock or have that own kind of data on there.
Totally. I mean, and we're definitely, still a long way to go when it comes to the analysis of data and being more proactive about the decisions. But definitely with what we've been able to put together has been a huge help for our customers.
Absolutely. I can only imagine. I absolutely love it, but that's just me, the data nerd side of it. All right, so I have two more questions for you. The first one is, how, like, do you see, we've touched on it a little bit, how do you see the demand for kind of this direct-to-consumer, temperature-controlled logistics evolving? Do you kind of seeing it being a short rise, or just kind of this is probably going to stay here for a while?
So my personal experience with the industry is that over the last decade, it's been evolving where before, let's say 10 years ago, you had to basically convince and teach someone that they can get something perishable delivered to their houses. Like it was an uphill battle to say, hey, I'll give you the butcher box example. At the beginning, we were not even like, hey, buy butcher box. It was more like, hey, you can buy, frozen meat delivered to your house. And that was basically like a roadblock that we have in front of us, where you had to teach the consumer that they can do that and that they could trust that food delivered to their houses. Nowadays, it's almost like common sense. Like a lot of people just know and understand that they can go online and they can buy food or farm or flowers and it gets delivered to their houses refrigerated. So I lived through that change of consumer behavior, and that's why I'm very bullish on the industry, because now that people know, like it's mostly just a product question, not a capability question, which is why we're very focused on what we're doing, which is, hey, like we'll solve the capability question. Now you just focus on the product question. But like I'll go online, I'll buy anything refrigerated, and I just trust that it makes it to my house. But that's how we've seen that consumer trend change for the last decade, and that's why we think it's here to stay.
Oh, absolutely. I can't even tell you how many times I personally have said, oh, well, I mean, I can just, if it exists, I can definitely have it delivered somehow or some way. I can have it delivered.
I mean, 10 years ago, it was like, hey, like you have to get it where that home.
Yeah, I was the same. I was like, you can't get groceries delivered. I literally just had them delivered last week. All right. So that being said, we already know where you stand on cereal and soup. This time, I'm going to need your best cheesy dad joke.
So I'm not a dad yet, so that's going to be challenging for me, but I have logistics jokes, which is a good mix, which could actually also be combined with dad jokes as well. But did you hear the joke about the late shipment? Because most didn't get it.
I like that one. That was a very good one. That was a really good one. I appreciate that. I love cheesy jokes. They are my brand of humor. So that is top tier one. Well done.
Get it on your books.
All right. So if anyone has any other cheesy jokes, or if they have any questions about the temperature controlled fulfillment space, where can they find you outside the show?
So LinkedIn, our company's website, Grip, LinkedIn, or my personal Juan C or Juan Camilo Maisel. And then I just rejoined Twitter a couple months ago after like 11 months of opening it once and never using it. So you can also find me there, Juan Camilo Maisel, or the company as well.
Awesome. Godspeed to your Twitter adventure. It's a trek. It's a trek.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
Good to see you, Mary.
You can catch other episodes of Running on Ice right here on YouTube or anywhere else you get your podcasts like Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Need more Running on Ice news? No sweat. Subscribe to the newsletter on freightwaves.com/runningonIce. See you on the internet.